The rising cost of college tuition in the United States has become a significant barrier to higher education for many students and their families. Over the past few decades, tuition fees have increased at a rate that far outpaces inflation and wage growth, placing a heavy financial burden on students, many of whom are forced to take on substantial debt. While higher education is often seen as the key to social mobility and economic opportunity, the escalating cost makes it increasingly difficult for individuals, particularly those from lower income backgrounds, to access and complete a college degree. The challenge of rising tuition requires a thoughtful examination of the factors contributing to the increase in the development of substantial solutions that can make college more affordable for future generations. This analysis applies to the PMOPS, problem, method, objectives, plan, solution, problem-solving framework to explore why college tuition is so expensive and to propose strategies for addressing this pressing issue.
The problem step involves identifying the issues and understanding the full scope. Here the issue is that college tuition in the United States have been rising unsubstantially, making the higher education less accessible and creating a financial burden. Burdens for students and their families. College tuition has consistently increased for the few decades even, outpacing tuition, and wage growth. According to the data from College Board, the average tuition for a 4-year public school is increased by nearly 200%. Over the past 30 years, we make factors contribute to this rise, from administrative bloat, the growth in administration, salaries, and such, decreasing state funding from certain colleges paying less or receiving less per person, for increased demand, aka colleges now having to hire or bring in more students simply because to meet the higher demands, or to flow with the higher tuition and students influx.
Now that you have a better understanding of the current tuition price crisis we are under, here are some possible solutions, strategies to consider in helping reduce this. So first we have increasing public funding for higher education. So if the state and federal governments could significantly increase public funding to public universities, this would reduce the reliance on tuition fees. Second, we have reform financial aid. So instead of providing loans and subsidies that allow tuition increases to continue unchecked, a focus could be placed on a need-based grants and direct support for lower income students. Third, we have encouraged private and public partnerships. So with more collaboration between universities and private companies, this could reduce the financial burden on students. So for instance, companies could sponsor students in exchange for future employment commitments.
I'll be talking about the rising cost of college tuitions in the U.S. It's been a big challenge that demands practical and cost-effective solutions. The escalating costs of college tuition make it increasingly difficult for individuals, particularly those in lower income backgrounds, to access and complete this degree. This is a significant barrier to social mobility and economic opportunity, and we need practical and cost-effective solutions to address it. Let's evaluate a few options using 3 key criteria: cost-effectiveness, impact on accessibility, and the political and public support. First, the increasing public funding could directly reduce tuition costs, making college more affordable for all students. However, it requires substantial long-term investment and faces political resistance, especially in states with budget restrictions. While this approach could have major impact on accessibility, its feasibility remains uncertain without support or budget relocations. Next, reforming financial aid could help low and middle income students afford college by expanding programs like Pell Grant. But unless tuition increases are regulated, these efforts risk being offset by higher costs. So the solution might cause an immediate financial burden, but it doesn't address the underlying problem of rising tuition costs. Finally, the private-public partnerships offer target approach by linking education to workforce needs. So, like adding fields like technology, healthcare could benefit significantly from these partnerships. But they're not all it's not a universal solution. They might create imbalances in the job market and leave many students without the support they need. But in conclusion, we have to balance these approaches, combining financial aid reform, strategic funding, and cost controls. It can make college more affordable and accessible, especially for those who need it most. Addressing this issue isn't just about finances, it's about gaining support and creating a pathway for the opportunity for all people.
The key criteria used to evaluate the solutions are cost effectiveness. So, will the solution require significant new funding, or can it be implemented with minimal financial strain? Political feasibility. Is the solution likely to gain widespread political support? Long-term impact. Will the solution reduce tuition costs in a sustainable manner over time? Effect on access and equity. Does the solution make college more accessible for all students, especially those from low-income backgrounds? And then scalability. Can the solution be applied to many institutions or only a few?
Choose the best solution. The definition is a plan that involves selecting the most effective solution based on the evolution of alternatives. The chosen solution is the most balanced and feasible solution, which comes from increasing public funding for higher education. While this may be challenging to implement politically, it offers the greatest potential for long-term substantial reductions in tuition costs. It also addresses the root cause of rising tuition, reduce state funding without burdening students with more debt or creating an over-reliance on financial aid problems.
Okay, for the next part is implement the solution. The definition is the solution step focuses on how to put the chosen solution into action. The implementation plan is advocacy and policy change. First, advocacy efforts must focus on convincing lawmakers at the state and federal levels to increase funding for public universities. This could involve grassroots efforts, lobbying, and public campaigns highlighting the importance of accessible higher education. The next is collaboration with universities. Universities must be encouraged to participate in discussions about how to allocate these additional funds most effectively, ensuring that the money is used to lower tuition rather than fund administration overhead. Long-term commitment. To ensure sustainability, the solution must be part of a long-term strategic plan that includes periodic reviews of funding levels and tuition costs to ensure that tuition growth stays in line with inflation and economic conditions. And last but not least, transparency. Universities should be required to be transparent in how they spend the additional public funding, providing detailed reports on how the money is used to reduce tuition and improve the educational experience for students.
In conclusion, the rising cost of college tuition is a very complex and driven factor. Like many reducing states, funding and increased administrative costs affect it. The most effective solution is increased public funding for higher education, which many would directly reduce the tuition for most fees, people, books, and everything around, and make colleges more acceptable. While this requires political support and careful resource allocation in many different departments, it offers a sustainable path forward to ensure that higher education remains affordable for all students across all walks of life. And in this aspect, we all can fully close knowing that we will get the right thing taken care of.